Hello, my YouTube family, all the MMA fans, UFC fans, and the fans of making lots and lots of money. For my customers, long-term customers, this has now become steady, consistent income. They've understood now the system, how it's bulletproof, and how I explained it in the post, so I don't just give pictures of the actual bet slips. I actually show them the bet slip. It says the date, the ID, the people that I picked, how much money. I'm very honest about everything. How much I bet. Like today I gave a 6-leg parlay, and my 6 picks were tier 1 level picks. On average, if you only include, I do tier 1 is super safe, little to no adversity. Tier 2 is medium risk. Tier 3 is high risk. Even on a day that there was real bad judging, the most recent event, SMITHVSSPANN, I think, whatever it was, the last UFC event, I went 7 right, 1 wrong pick. The proof, you can even see it on social media or go to my comment section. There's links that you can see the actual post with the date and time that shows my I had 4 tier 1 picks and 4 tier 2 picks. 7 out of 8 cashed in. The one and only one that didn't cash in was a split decision. So actually one judge even said he won. You can argue I got perfect picks. And my opinion, and even my customers all believe that we should have gotten that guy to win because he had a great round in the first round with 30 seconds left. He had 4 minutes and 40 seconds, or with like 20 seconds left. He had over 4.5 minutes of control time in a 5-minute round and landed 40 strikes to only 1 by his opponent. If that's not a 10-8 round, what can possibly be considered? So even if he lost the other 2 rounds, the worst you could say is a draw, but he didn't lose the other rounds. He may have lost the second round. It could possibly have swung. I still think he edged it. He should have won the second as well. But even if he lost the second, which is hard to say, the third was clearly his as well. But as long as both rounds were competitive, worst case should have been a draw, so they robbed us. And it happens all the time because he was a favorite, and then it benefited them, especially when he was dominating so much in the first round. Can you imagine how many people's live betting were slamming, probably in all total millions of dollars during the first round and at the end of the first round? Probably it was such a mismatch. 40-1, 4.5 minutes of control time to 0, takedowns to 1-0. It was a dominant 10-8 round, so obviously people were trying to slam, so it benefited them to give the split decision. I mean, it came down to guess who? Chris Lee. Chris Lee was the deciding factor. The same guy who even Paul Felder, when he lost to RDA, said, I don't know what the hell that judge was thinking or saying. He's one of the most known corrupt judges. But anyway, so we should have gone 8-0, perfect picks. And this, even though we did profit, the swing, the turnaround, because he was a good paying favorite. He was a very small favorite. And he was in a lot of parlays and a single bet. Props as bets all would have cashed. So a guy who would have bet like only 500 and instead of winning like 4,000 or 5,000, we would have made about 10 times, which is a normal. We go between, on a bad day, 5 times our money. But this was one of our worst days ever as far as winning events. And we only tripled our money. Nick Lentz was an important part of our night as well, so that helped. But if they gave us that split decision, if the other 2 judges agreed with the first judge, and they counted it as a 10-8 first round especially, and it was a draw, we would be speaking about thousands of extra in profit. So it's not a surprise why they would do that. and he's a part of it, and we're going to come back to that subject because he's one of those kind of guys. Like, I have a folder. One of the benefits of my Patreon, I don't just give picks. I do breakdowns for all the fights. In my YouTube channel, if you go back to the beginning of like my first month on YouTube, my channel, I used to do full breakdown predictions. So I wasn't just giving one or two picks. I would give the entire full card. And so if you look back, for example, Manon Feria, we're going to talk about her on this video. I spoke about, she had a short notice replacement debut fight against, I think, Victoria Leonardo. And she came in because nobody had known her. She was not a known name at the time. Still doesn't have many like fights, fairly, you know, medium-sized record. Doesn't have like 50 wins or nothing crazy. And she's from France. At the time, Cyril Gain wasn't too well known either. I don't think he was doing big things at the time. So being French, being her first debut fight with the jitters and short notice. So she was an underdog. But I gave, if you look back at the video, it was the Magny card. The Chiesa versus Magny card, which actually you'll see at that on that video. I also was one of the only people who picked Magny to lose by decision. So we had Chiesa in a lot of parlays, and the prop bet for by decision cashed in as well, and the over 4.5 rounds. So we cashed in a lot of money just off the main event. We cashed in the single bet money line underdog, just straight. So in case he submitted or whatever, that cashed in parlays and a single bet. Then the win by decision, Chiesa, was like real big plus money because he was a pretty big underdog. He wasn't a small, he was a big underdog. So that cashed in parlays and single bets. And then the over 4.5 rounds cashed in, which was plus money. So either we won multiple different ways off of one fight that day. And we even had a 6-leg parlay. I can timestamps, it's on my social media. I want to address this. This video is special. This is a special segment. I want you to, this may be the most important segment I've ever had for 2 reasons. I'm going to nullify some rumors. There's been, anytime somebody's doing well, as if you're doing good and people are intimidated, your competitors are intimidated, or some customers, because I always have told you guys I'm picky. If you're disrespectful, gambling attracts the worst people. So sometimes I've had cards where I got 12 right picks and 1 wrong out of 13 fights, and the 1 wrong, because I don't just give picks and tiers, but in the tier I also put the order in correct order of most confident to least confident. So like the day Dricus Duplessis fought, he was an underdog, and he was an underdog, but he was tier 1, and he was one of my most confident picks because the style matchup. So I put him as like my number 1 or 2 on the list of my tier 1 picks. So it goes order. So my 13th, oh, this was the Hermanson. Go back to my Hermanson, Jack Hermanson versus Martin Vittori card. The only pick I got wrong, meaning, so even if you did a 13-leg parlay, the 12 fights cashed in, no dummy would have been greedy, and most people would have cashed out early. But one guy told me, this was a Patreon member too, by the way, so he used to get extra picks, prop bets. I do MMA breaking news announcements for fights, betting tips. I do a lot of things. We are on a 5-day in a row streak of outside MMA. I do 2-leg parlays, 5-star plays. So like yesterday or 2 days ago, we did the Blackhawks and the LA Chargers to beat the Oakland Raiders. The 2-leg parlay paid plus 185, almost 2-to-1 odds, cashed in, and we did that 5 days in a row. So I do find, like, for him to complain about, somehow he said he lost money, I guess because he was so confident after seeing, I understand, like, it's happened more than once, believe it or not, but because he was a customer, I took offense because I've made this guy a lot of money. He said, yeah, but you got this fight wrong and you should have known. Like, he was just talking smack. So I deleted him and I blocked him from my Patreon. And so sometimes those guys are also going to be on hate. So right now, my haters are on full blast. So let me do this before we start. I'm going to give you a 2-leg parlay. Instead of my usual risky picks, I'm going to give you safe picks. I'm going to give you some knowledge about a fighter for this Saturday's card, this upcoming card, knowledge that there's no way, unless you're a doctor who paid attention, or a trainer, or a former or current fighter, there's nobody else that, unless you're actually the person, of course, or the person's family that may know about it from them telling them or just knowing about it, other than the person and their families, but even doctors or fighters or trainers will not know this unless they paid attention. You have to, and me being somebody who's responsible for people's money and trying in the business of getting the correct picks, I pay attention. So I'm going to give you guys a factual piece of information regarding a fight that's coming up this Saturday for UFC that not one person in the entire planet, nonetheless YouTube or Twitter or anywhere else, I will pay $1,000 if you find this piece of information anywhere else. To anybody, you just post the link. If it has to be information from before this video was released, not after, because sometimes I have had fighters, I've showed screenshots of fighters thanking me. Some fighters watched that's why I have interviews with some of them, and I have relationships with a lot of them. If you look, I posted conversations between me and Cyril Gain the day before his fight. I talked to Benil Darush. I talked to a lot of fighters and their managers. So my point being is I've been thanked because they've watched my videos. I can break down fights, and when I make comparisons between this fighter and this fighter, when they come together, what I think is going to happen, the reason why I'm good at that is because not only I fought for a long time, and I fought in every different facet of martial arts, from wrestling, karate, boxing, everything you can imagine I was involved with, almost everything. But I did it for many years, like since I was like the girl who's doing the main event, Mackenzie Dern. The reason why she's nearly undefeated, pretty much undefeated, only has one loss, and it was the actual most worst style matchup possible for her, and it was years ago, before switching camps, before finding her new striking coach, who you see the only other time I can remember seeing this much of an evolution overnight, well, it was a long layoff, was when Korean Zombie versus Ortega. After seeing Ortega get just demolished and embarrassed against Max Holloway, even Max Holloway was even making fun of him and trying to teach him how to throw punch is in the middle of the fight. There's classic videos out, short clips you can find of him doing it, and he got busted. So besides the physical damage, he had like a broken face and everything. He also took the time off to fix the holes in his game so he can come back as a better striker. But the switching camps, look at what happened with Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, when he switched camps, look at the difference between the first fight between him and Stipe and the second fight. It went from 5 full rounds, because he didn't get finished. It went from like 5 full rounds of 10-8 dominating rounds. Stipe won every second of every moment of the fight. I don't even think the guy landed or got hit once, it seemed like. That's how I remember it, but it was a lopsided fight. It's one thing when you punch somebody and you get a knockout in 1 second. You don't know like who's the actual better fighter, but when you see them fighting for 5 rounds, 25 minutes, you know, and every round and every second of the round, the same thing was happening. You know who's gonna be the better fighter of the two. The rematch was so opposite that not only did the other guy win, he won within like a minute or seconds of the first round, switched camps. Look what Usman took John Jones's place as the pound-for-pound world ranking #1 best fighter on the planet. Only came after he switched camps because he didn't want to fight in the same place where his opponent, when they gave him the #1 contender ranked spot underneath him, was a training partner who was still training under the same person. So he had to move camps. And when he went to the same trainer that we seen Justin Gaethje do so well because of, Trevor Whitman, who Miranda Maverick has just moved to, a girl who's practically undefeated, who got robbed. She wants to make improvements. So a lot of people, when they need to make improvements, have gone, and this guy's had many champions and interim champs. Justin Gaethje was an interim champion when he fought Khabib. That was the night. Oh, speaking of, so all these people accusing me of fraud, of this. Not only, mind you, I was born and raised in Chicago, not some small hillbilly nick town. The gym I was training out of since I was like in diapers, and where I eventually started training other people and working at, is the largest, most known gym. It's like the AKA American Kickbox or AT whatever. It's the biggest gym and most well-known gym in Chicago. And Chicago is one of like the biggest, most popular cities in the world. So not only am I going to give you my name, my information, the name of the gym, the name of my coach, the person who owns the gym today will verify that what year, what date, because it's all on records. I signed up before I didn't even have a driver's license because I remember it was so far away from my house. So it was an issue to get there, but I used to get there 6 in the morning to 6:30 sometimes, and the doors did not open till. I'll tell you so much about the building. You don't even have to ask the trainer if he knows me or give him my name just by this information, because I spend 13 hours a day. I swear on God, I was the first guy in. I would be when literally they opened the door. I used to be waiting outside until they opened the door in one of the worst neighborhoods. Costner and Ogden is the worst neighborhood. It's a cesspool of gang bangers and drug dealers and all types of different bad people. So I used to wait outside for 30 minutes until they came to open the door, and I was the last guy out. When they said, come on, we're closing up, the lights are turning off, you got to get out of here, I was that guy as well. So in the same day, first guy in the door, last guy out. I did that 6 days a week because they were closed on Sundays. And then, so that's why everybody will remember me there. I'll give you professional fighters that when you go, they have thousands of followers. You just show them Fighting Guru, show them my name, and they'll say, yeah, I trained him. Or he trained me, he trained with me. Most of them are retired now. That was years ago, but they'll verify it based off my picture or my name. You can give it, but I'll even tell you what the posters in the building, I'll tell you how I can still remember the smell. There was a poster, for example, on the corner of Rocky Balboa, and in quotations, it says, the more you sweat, the less you bleed. It was like an inspiration thing. So while you're in there, every time you're tired, just look at that poster and it lets you know, look, I'm sweating, I'm tired, but I'm going to keep going. So when it's time to fight, I don't have to bleed because I put more sweat. And so that's one of the best posters. I remember they had a Muhammad Ali poster next to it. They had only 2 rings, and it was on the second floor, and the stairs curved. I used to count the steps because he used to make me do steps. So there was I'll even tell you how many steps there were to go up double doors. It was on top of a warehouse right on the corner of Costner and Ogden. You can verify, you can ask I had more than one trainer, but just to give you one name, and one of my trainers was a former retired heavyweight boxing world champion. But the other trainer that will probably remember me more so, but you may have to use. I went by different names. My given name, birth name is not. I never was called by that. Not even by my family until this day. Nobody calls me by my birth name. Even in school, my friends, my cousins, some of my cousins don't even know that my real name isn't Joe. They call me Joe. So they may have trouble remembering me by Bernard, but it's all on paper. If you give them my real name, Bernard, and most people know it if you're on my Patreon. So, or if you're interested in joining my Patreon, but you want to make sure I'm legit, if you want to see how many years, I'll give you the name. I'm not going to give you the phone number. I'll give you the name of the gym. You'll know it's Windy City Boxing Club. Call them yourself. They'll verify who I was, how long. It's all on paper. They enter it for their books and payroll and stuff, what dates I entered in and how long I stayed there and whatever. So and then I'll tell you where I did karate before that. They'll verify it. I'll give you the name of that place. I don't want to give them all now because some haters may give them trouble. I don't want to annoy them. So if I see you're a real potential customer, or if you're already a current customer and you just want to verify that you joined into a Patreon that's legitimate, I'll give you the names of where I practiced karate, where I broke and achieved my brown belts, and how many years I spent boxing, who I trained. And so that's here. Now that's why in one of these fights, I picked up on something that even the odd makers have not picked up on. Nobody has picked up on this, and I'll tell you why they didn't pick up on it, and I'll tell you how even without being a fighter, doctor, trainer, you can verify it's true and a fact. Go back to the fourth round. We're talking about right now, I'm giving you two predictions and breakdowns, two picks and a parlay in this video, and some inside trade secrets that only trainers and fighters or managers would know about. So this is important information that if you're just a gambler or a fan of the sports, or you would want to know this. This is helpful stuff that you have to keep in mind. Or you could just join my Patreon and not have to worry about it, because there's a folder that will give you this information, or 24-hour access to direct messaging me with any questions. I can answer them for you without you needing to remember anything. But for example, what I picked up on, go back to Marina Rodriguez's last fight. Somewhere around the third or fourth round, you heard DC, Daniel Cormier, former world champion, was one of the top 5, top 3 ranked world best fighters in the world before he retired. He's also an Olympian, a wrestler. Now he does commentary for ESPN. So very smart mind. He's seen it all. He's trained with Khabib and the best of them. And he said something. Her nose, she's having problems breathing. Go look at Eric Anders, and after his no contest fight with Darren Stewart, but before the rematch, he made a video on his live Instagram. Eric Anders, ERYK. Sanders or Anders? No, Anders. AND is a UFC fighter. He won the second time, almost won the first time, but it became something illegal on accident, and they stopped the fight. So nobody won, nobody lost. And when they did a rematch, he won the fight so fast, and so he did so much better because his entire career, you could tell there's a reason why he looked better than ever at an age that you would expect most people to look worse now and start to decline. He had a deviated spectrum. A lot of fighters have this. And a lot of people who aren't fighters, because it's such an expensive surgery and MMA doesn't pay well, especially back in those days. That's why I dedicated, when I stopped doing karate and I focused more time than even wrestling, and more time than I did football. Just all together, I did a lot of rigorous working out and training 7 days a week. But boxing was my love. That's the one I focused on, because at that time there was no Conor McGregor's, Anderson Silva, so MMA was not known as like something that you can be rich off of. So I focused on boxing, but I had the training from everything else. But look at Eric Anders on his social media page. He fixed his deviated spectrum because it would not allow him to breathe properly. So after the first round of every fight, he was completely gassed out, and that would cost him fights. He even lost, I think, one time to Anthony Oraio, who was one of the 6 people they just recently cut, who Devin Wynn even beat, who's going to be fighting Phil Haas. We'll talk about that fight, talk about mismatches and easy money, and there's still great value, if you ask me, considering the guy's speed, accuracy, cardio, size, expertise, him being just a one-trick pony, and the last performance. Even Daniel Cormier said this is the best version of Hawes we've ever seen. I agree. Hawes is a guy who I always used to say to myself, if he can fix that cardio issue, if his gas tank was better, like in that, even when he had so much heart that even in that the Russian sniper fight when he fought Imavov, he, even being completely gassed out, found a way to get the win. Now we've seen him fix his cardio. That's why the commentary team like DC, I think, said that this guy's a threat to everybody. When you say that about a guy who's not even ranked in the top 5, that's like you're saying future champion quality, top 5 material quality. So now he's evolved and he's fighting against one of the worst fighters in the UFC, a guy who's only got wins over guys who are like the worst fighters who are not even still on the UFC roster. So especially in parlays, I gave a parlay today for $300. I don't see this. It's almost impossible for any of these fights. And I even gave you the one possible one that if you were ever going to consider trying to make it a little bit safer, I gave you 2 of the ones that you can consider taking out, but you shouldn't, or make an extra one without them. But this parlay has nothing but mismatches and dependable UFC fighters. No PFL, no Bellator, no Dana White. I don't even think there's no underdogs. Just good prospects, dark horses, future champions, and current champions. You play $300 and you win 77. You cash out for $8,000. And I am convinced, and I did another 3 parlays with different variations of those same people, and it's all this month. So you will cash in that money in the month of October. Okay, so anyways, the reason, Michelle, a lot of fighters do this. I have a folder, and if you're in the Patreon, you can find it, over 20 fighters that you got to be careful of, as good as they are. For example, Jermaine Durandamine, her Julia Pena fight, she was losing every second of every round until all of a sudden in the last few of the last round, where it looked like she had even turned into like a plus 2,000 underdog. Like it was every round dominating, because she wasn't fighting technical. She wasn't trying to win a decision. She's a police officer. She fights once every 2 years. After taxes, coaches, training partners, the traveling plans, your manager, you're cut down to, especially since I heard they get paid so low, you'd have to fight like Kevin Holland 5 times a year just to have a decent average. And Paige Van Zandt said she used to make more money on her 9-to-5 regular job than she did working for the UFC. Cheyenne Buys cried because her bonus, the $50K, was more than her total purse, including her win money. So they paid like 12 to fight just to show, and an extra like 12 to win. So she doubled her money just for getting a bonus. And so with the COVID, especially protocols, where if they find out, even if you don't test positive, but your training partner, your manager, your coach, anybody on your team was positive for COVID, protocols will remove you from your fight, and all that money you spent on trying to travel and training camps, you don't get paid for it. It's a total loss. Another reason is difficult. So she was crying. She said, I needed this. My bank is in the negative. You remember? So, things like that make the bonuses more important than getting the win. Michelle Waterson against Marina Rodriguez in her last fight. First thing I want you to do is remember what DC said around the third or the fourth round. Look at how she's breathing. She's having a difficult time breathing. And I heard it. I recognize this. I've seen hundreds of people have had this problem. It happens in sparring or from just fighting for too long. You get a deviated spectrum and you can't breathe properly, and it affects your stamina. That's when you get into submissions like chokes. You have to tap out fast or it'd be like you feel like you're drowning. So Eric Anders finally did the surgery and looked his best. But Marina, here's an inside secret nobody knows about. Michelle Waters, two of them actually. Michelle Waterson, do you know, in her interviews, this is what pissed me off the most. She said she knows that Marina Rodriguez has like 20 years of Muay Thai experience, but zero grappling, zero wrestling pedigree, no submission games. And so Michelle said, I'm the better wrestler. I'm going to take her. I'm going to bring it to my world. In 5 rounds, Michelle attempted only one takedown. And guess what? It landed successfully. And she kept Marina on her back for 4 minutes. The entire round. Marina wasn't even trying to get up. And Michelle's not even a strong grappler. She's not a submission specialist. If you gave 30 seconds, and by the way, Mackenzie Dern has improved tremendously in wrestling and taking down and striking. And watching her interview in the interview scrum today, she made it clear that she studied her and her new team. She had to change teams. Changing teams is good because now you get... the team, if you stay in the same team, you're limited because another coach may have stuff that they could teach you to advance you to new levels and boundaries you can break that make you go from good to great. So that's why Francis became champ. That's why a lot of people switch camps. Deontay Wilder switched camps after losing to Fury. Fury switched camps after almost losing and getting a draw. They all do that for a good reason. So anyway, what I was trying to get to is Michelle Waterson said that she had a plan. She was going to take her down. She did one attempt. It was successful, but it was a boring round. It was the only round she won. So knowing that she was going to lose the fight, she was willing to lose the fight to take a chance at getting a knockout. She kept trying to kick her in the head. Geraint Durandamine did the same thing. This is a free video. I'm not gonna, but I have over 20 names of fighters that do this, that focus on bonuses, and many occasions have lost the fight due to that. Geraint Durandamine was lucky. She won that $50K bonus because she got the submission, and it was one of the biggest comebacks. And so, there's a lot of inside stuff that nobody should know about, but deviated spectrum, Marina hasn't fixed it, and this is a 5-round fight. And I'm going to tell you, her opponent, Mackenzie Dern's style of fighting is one of the most taxing on her opponents. She's going to try to take you to the ground. One round of wrestling is more harder on your cardio than 5 rounds of just boxing. So she said she's going to take her to the ground. She's going to finish it. If, for example, if Michelle and Dern mixed and switched places just for 30 seconds, she doesn't need 4 minutes. Or Amanda Ribas, the first round before the Waterson fight, Marina Rodriguez, the main event fight against Mackenzie Dern this Saturday, the fight before that, Her first round, before she won that fight, she got dominated. It was a 10-8 round because she spent the full round on her back. That's not a person you can trust. She doesn't have the game, so she drew the map. But then the second round, a punch, she got lucky because Amanda Ribas isn't the greatest wrestler, so she couldn't get her to the ground, and she got finished by strikes. So, again, Marina, and that was a 3-round fight, so Marina got lucky. She fished. That's why she always goes for finishes. She needs finishes. She cannot go after the second, third round, but if it's mostly wrestling, it may actually be after the first round. Marina's not going to be able to defend from takedowns. Her strikes are not going to be effective. Her movement, she'll be very planted, very stiff, very, plotted, and you'll be able to see and predict her movements and strikes very easily. She'll look like she's in slow motion, and her opponent will look like a rock star. So the lines are super close. They opened up minus 150. That's a moderate favorite, almost near pick'ems. Like, you bet 100 to win 50. You bet 200, you win 100. That's good, but we're gonna, with parlays, because I got much safer picks with like undefeated guys who are even better than they've ever been against people who are complete mismatches. So I can give you a parlay that's like 4 legs. That's 99. I would bet I'll give you a money back guarantee. I'll tell you what. If you join today or within the next 24 hours, I'll give you a 4-leg parlay that pays like 3 or 4 times your money, maybe even more, maybe 5 times your money in a parlay that if it didn't cash in, you get your full membership refunded. Okay, but I have other parlays safer and bigger. I have a parlay, as I said, 300 cashes you out for 8,000, which is 7,700 in profit. And these are only tier 1 picks. Had to be mismatches. I have requirements and things. If it's not a mismatch, and if he's not durable, if he doesn't have a good fight IQ, there's a long list. So the screening process is not easy. They had to be durable. They had to be champion material, like good endurance, stamina, good fight IQ, powerful. They have to not be fragile or weak chins with a lot of miles on them. So like these picks, I cannot imagine. And I even left out the ones. I made a second one in the same post saying, even though this guy will win, this is a kind of a fighter that lets it go to the judges. Even though he will dominate and win, I won't put it in the hands of the judges. So if you want to remove this, if you want to remove anybody and just add a little bit more money to get the same profit, I even told you which fighters. So and on Fight Night, you get a list of most to the least confident. Again, last week, besides a split decision, we should have been 8-0, but we went 7-1, and that's pretty bad. I typically don't get any wrong. My tier 1 accuracy is above 95%. And so I'll give you proof. Here's perfect proof. When I started my Twitter account, my link is in the description. The first card when I started my Twitter account, I decided to do this as a career. It's my first event. I have to give, I'm not going to charge people who've never seen me break down or give bets. So for like the first 3 events, I did them for free, starting with the Khabib versus Justin card. I did a 13-leg parlay. I did a total of like 10 different parlays, like a 10-leg, or no, a 13-leg, 12-leg, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. Every one cashed in. 3 of those fighters were underdogs. One of them was a debut fighter with like minus 600 odds. Bam Bam Tai Suva was a pick'ems. So 3 underdogs, 1 pick'em, 1 debut fighter, and I still got 0 wrong picks, and the timestamps are there. I posted it Thursday. So 2 days before the event started, and I did that for 2 more events. My first 3 events on Twitter, the stamps are still there. I never deleted the same account, still there. Videos, if you go back, there's timestamps, they're still there. I went 3 events in a row with 0 wrong picks. Or there was, I think, one out of all 3, there was one like that was a robbery. But even if I got 3 wrong, but I didn't. There was possibly 1 wrong. I think there was possibly 1 wrong out of all of them. In 3 events back to back, we made my first one, and it shows how much my ticket, $300, $50. It shows my wagers, and it came out to a total of, go back, look at my Twitter, on my first post, when I opened it, I showed 30 from the casino where I reside in. If I told you I live in Chicago, and the closest casino is Bet Rivers Casino. And it says Bet Rivers Casino, the date, so you know it's the closest one to my home. And I even got banned from there shortly after. I showed my patrons, and I can show you guys, they've banned me for life. Because who does 13 leg parlays? I bet $3,000 only, and I left with $16,620.33. So, but they didn't kick me out because of that right away. I did that every week, and I was doing it before that. So it got to the point where they didn't know if I had like some ties to the mafia, whatever. They never gave me a valid explanation. But if I go there now, they'll arrest me and fine me. I can't even open an online account there. There's a letter, it's even on my Twitter, addressed to my real name. You can see it, or if you want to, or it's in my Patreon, you can see it as well. I got a letter and a ticket. I showed pictures of with my name on it. And used that same name. Windy City Boxing Club's the biggest, most well-known. There's champions that came out of there that fought you, that you will know of on TV, that will verify me, that they know of me. But just look at, or how about this? 3 weeks before Rodolfo Vieira's fight, go look at my Twitter. Twitter's, and it's not private. You can open an account today and see every post I've ever made. 3 weeks before Rodolfo Vieira fight, he was an undefeated prospect. Black Belt Killer was his nickname, and he fought a guy who was like 8-5. Well, he was known as like a jobber, a fade. Rodolfo Vieira was the biggest favorite of the card, -800. Every channel was so high on him and saying that was their most confident pick. Not only did I make a Twitter free post, it's still there till today. Twitter's not going to, I don't own Twitter. They're not going to lie. The date and time will show 3 weeks, because that was a fight that they rebooked twice because of COVID protocols. So the first time they booked it, that's why it was so much earlier. I usually talk about fights the week of, but if you're wondering why it was 3 weeks or so before the fight actually happened, I made a post saying, but I guarantee, like I said exactly what was going to happen, that he was going to get tired. He was going to get lit up like a Christmas tree on the feet because he's got no striking. All he does is those gi BJJ grappling contests where they put the gi on and it's a whole different game. So that doesn't translate very well. You need more than that to be good at MMA. And it just so happens, this is what I told you, odd makers were playing games with people during those times. They were trying to trick people a lot. So I used to warn you to be careful. I said that Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, if there's one thing that I'd have to say he's the best at, is snatching your neck up when you do a sloppy takedown. He even has like at least one, maybe 2, but for sure at least one of his wins was from somebody shooting in for a takedown without setting it up properly, and he did a jumping guillotine and submitted him or put him to sleep. That was a plus 2,000 prop bet. I not only bet against the biggest favorite, but I said how he would lose. Anybody can say submission, right? I even called which submission. It's in another guy that's named Parlay something. was like kind of like, he wasn't being disrespectful, but he was like, I don't know about that one, man. I like your picks, but he was trying to like kind of like question me. A lot of my patrons questioned me, and I gained a lot of notoriety after that because they started to realize I kept doing it over and over. When Strickland was an underdog, when Tyson Nam fought against Schnell, I got Schnell to win by decision. Bullet Valentina to win by decision because Jennifer Maya will not go down. She keeps coming like Korean Zombie. Was plus 300. I took minus 1800. Biggest favorite of the year. Shayna Dobson, another one, the biggest underdog of the year. I got that. I still have tickets and bet slips. In the Patreon you can see Shayna Dobson beating Agriprova. But back to the point. I noticed that she's got a deviated spectrum, and the only reason why Michelle Waterson went in for only one takedown and was successful and won, and that was the only, and she didn't try it again, is because it was a boring round. She won, but it was not exciting. She wouldn't get like a bonus of the night, and she's in her latest. Since that fight, she's not fought again. I think if she has, only once maybe, but she's a mom now. She even changed her nickname from Karate Hottie to Mom Champ or Mom something like that. So she's at the end of her career. Protocol. She doesn't want to take risks. She has a newborn. She's a mom now, so she has to make every fight count. So she was willing to risk losing the fight to get the finish, like Jeraine Durandamine did. And I can literally list over 20 people who do this. Some of them even do it not for the money, just to put on a show. Look what Sean Strickland did to, I think the guy was Jack Marshman or whatever his name was. In the third round, he was like, come on, Jack. Come on, I'll give you a chance to win. Because he was down like 10-8 rounds for the first 2 rounds. It was a one-sided beatdown. He tried to get the fans excited. He's on the list, so I'll give you a couple more. Robbie Lawler, if you paid attention, his corner, Nate Diaz was in better shape 2 years ago than he was for this fight. So there's obvious reasons he's doing it for money. He's not in good shape. And so it just takes 1 second. Once one punch, and Lawler was able to tell that Nick didn't have the power or abilities to hurt or knock him out. So what he decided to do is make it entertaining. So that's when there was some glimpses of him, but Robbie allowed that. He even covered and balled up and let him do his thing. And then his corner, you have to pay attention. They said something like, stop effing around, stop bulls. They were screaming at him, so he stopped doing that shit, and the fight came to an end. Seconds later, he finished him by TKO. So there's a lot of fighters that do this. And these are the things, the politics you got to know. And another thing that I know about politics is who's the money marketing machine behind. Verna Janaroba, she won that fight against Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern's the other girl who's the other half of the main event. So do you know why Mackenzie Dern won the decision, even unanimous? And I told it, anytime you see a fight's real close and they give it to the wrong person and the judge score was 30-27, those are the ones that are like, from the beginning, that fight, no matter, as long as the other person didn't get finished, there was no possible way it was going to go any other. Somebody paid big money to make sure that underdog won. So anyway, it became 30-27, and what were we just saying? 30-27. Oh yeah. What was we were just talking about? Shoot. What was it? Marina? No. The other half. Okay, yes. Mackenzie Dern was fighting Verna. And if you paid attention today, they did media scrum interviews for the fighters. She said exactly what I said to my patrons about 4 days ago. I told them Mackenzie Dern, on the feet, especially after she switched camps because there was an altercation with her husband and her trainer, her trainer and her husband fought an art, like it became physical. So they asked them, they separated, they went separate ways for one reason or another, and it benefited her because now her striking coach is working with her. She's evolved and she's doing better. But the point is, Verna Brown, she's also a black belt on the ground. The only other person to defeat Mackenzie Dern is a BJJ specialist. Amanda Ribas has nothing but a ground game. She's been exposed. And in 2019, Mackenzie Dern didn't have anything but a ground game either. So she knew that she had at least the advantage, or she thought she had the advantage in the striking. So that's why you noticed she wasn't getting takedowns, but she got taken down by Ribas twice and outlanded. So she made she had a bad game plan and it cost her. It doesn't mean she's not the better fighter. Just wrong game plan. Wrong. It didn't go her way. Wrong. The other team had the better plan. That was all, So that was a nightmare matchup special. Like Verna, good striking, long, rangy, very athletic, big, strong, and has a great ground. Not many people know this. It's not on SureDog, not on Tapology, but Verna Janaroba, who was nearly undefeated and was looking unstoppable, great before that Dern fight, was looking like a world beater, like a dark horse. She holds currently 2 wins to 0. She has 2 wins over the current champ and a double champ, Amanda Nunes, the woman who's known as the greatest woman of all combat sports. She's like the Muhammad Ali of the new Ronda Rousey, who took over Ronda Rousey's belt after whatever, maybe Holly Holmes, I guess, did that, whatever. But the point is, the greatest fighter of all time has 2 losses to Verna Janaroba. So Vanna is a nightmare matchup. So she actually, if the judges were fair, and I'm good at scoring, and if you look at the outside judges, Verna won that fight. But do you know why they gave it to Mackenzie Dern? Not just because she's been fighting since she was 3 years old. Her mom's a fighter. Her dad's a fighter. Her coach, her mom's a black belt. Did you know that? Her dad's she got more than 20 gold medals she has records she holds until this day, not just UFC, world records. She's accomplished things in the Olympics and like tournaments that no other woman in the planet has done. So her accolades and accomplishments are so high, and she's so popular and known that's one reason. And the other thing is, unlike other fighters who try to put one foot out the door, like Henry Cejudo wanted to do real estate, Ali Quinta wanted to do real estate, Geraint de Randamine, police officer, the guy who Dreykus just beat, Dreykus du Plessis, who was my lock of the week, and he was an underdog. He fought Trevin Giles. He's a police officer, 1 foot out the door. Those guys, they never get split decision wins for them. But the Jose Aldos, but you know what Mackenzie Dern does? The only thing she does when she's not practicing and training, she's putting up sexy pictures, modeling. So her following, her stocks are going up. And did you hear what she was talking about today? How smart she is? That shows that she's got even good fight IQ. And that's how she got Ronda Marcos to come into her guard. She didn't even, in her Ronda Marcos fight, Marcos is Iraqi. Iraqis are strong. She even has wins on the ground. She got a good ground game. She made her look like a white belt. She tricked her into going to the ground without even having to get a takedown. She volunteered herself to go down there and got submitted and looked outclassed. And she's pretty good on the ground. She got outclassed by Mackenzie Dern. But back to the point is, she promotes herself. her stocks are rising. Her social media following is in the millions because she models, she does sexy photos and like this stuff. The stuff that she does, the only times that when she's not, because somebody who's been training since 3, who's like a 3rd degree black belt, they don't gotta like have to necessarily always. They're not gonna need to, if they know they have an opponent who's nowhere near their level, who just started 3 years ago, they don't have to like kill themselves. It's actually better, just like Max Holloway said. When he had his best performance, he said it was the first time he didn't spar. He said, this camp, I did no sparring, and that was one of his best performances. I came in feeling my best. I had no injuries. So it's similar for that reason, but she does sexy pictures and modeling and advertising. So when she promotes herself, her stock goes up, following media, social media. That helps the brand of the UFC. That gets them ratings. Seats are getting sold out at the MGM Grand Arenas and pay-per-view buys. So close decisions are going to keep going her way, especially when she's got an impressive record. And the champion in that division there's so many reasons. A dominating champion who nobody can seem to even compete or give her a challenge. So that's dangerous, because then it becomes boring. When you see Valentina's fighting Lauren Murphy, there's a reason she's minus 2,000 favorite. Did people give her 0 chance? Lauren Murphy had never been finished in her career, and she got finished for the first time, and that wasn't even Valentina's best performance. So when you have a division like that, especially that's being dominated by just one person, and there's no competition, and they're starting to recycle through the same fighters over and over, they need people like that. So more reason, win, lose, or draw, the smarter pick is Dern. She's like, look, I want to renegotiate my contract. I want people to remember me and know me, so that when I have a negotiating tool that I can use to make more money on my UFC contracts, because she's got a baby. She's more motivated than ever, and she's more confident in herself than ever because she's evolved. And so now look how quickly she finished. Speaking of the greatest of all time, Amanda Nunes, her wife, who you would expect if you're married, they're lesbians, so they're legally married. If you're married to the greatest woman fighter of all time, and you were a fighter even long before you met her, you would imagine you're probably going to be pretty good at yourself. You live with one of the greatest of all time, so you train and learn things from her. You're part of the same great team that comes from a lot of champs and good fighters. Mackenzie Dern just blew her away, and her striking had her wrestling even was impressive. Her takedowns, she ran the pipe with the single leg perfectly, head positionings. She's in the best. She's 28, and her opponent Marina is like 35. One is at the peak of their prime in their best years, evolving, making changes, while the other one's kind of like on her way down, needs to have surgery, not in her best. Even in the interview, she said this is not going to go the full 5 rounds. She's very smart. She said, I'm going to get a finish. When somebody's not even speaking about like, I should win, I think I'll win, but they're saying I'm going to finish them, they're thinking of like that type of a response. That's how you know that. And she studied it. I was impressed because she said, I got to be careful she uses the left jab a lot just to set up her overhand right. And that is Marina Rodriguez's most dangerous weapon, is her overhand right. So she said, I'm going to keep my hand always up and make sure that she doesn't catch me with the overhand. She's going to take her down. She's not going to make it a kickboxing fight. This is a girl who cares about her legacy. She has comes from a fighting family. Her name means more. Her win means more. And she's not thinking about today only or tomorrow only. She's thinking future. She said, I want to be pay-per-view headliner. And anytime she's done like her first debut fight for UFC was an amazing performance. Her first fight for Invicta, when Invicta signed her, wow, what an amazing performance. You know why? Because she started when she was 3. She's good under pressure. Where most people, when they are having their first fights, they get jitters and they make mistakes. She's the opposite. There's two kinds of people. The ones that are great under pressure, like the Michael Jordans, Reggie Millers, that are clutch. They want the ball when there's only 1 second left, and they don't let you down. And then there's those people like, no, don't give it to me. Give it to somebody else. She's one of those that is good, always does well. And this is her first main event. 5 rounds against a girl who, after the second and third, especially if you're going to try to wrestle with her, is going to be a sitting duck. You know, the line should not be this close. Somebody's messed up over there in the odds headquarters, you know. And this is not even close to, out of 10 fights, this is like my 9th most confident pick, and I'm almost 100% sure about these picks. So anybody calling me a fraud, whoever is, they're haters. They were like trying to make videos talking about grammar and like weird things that, like, who cares? Oh, he used to smoke weed. I saw something about him had smoked weed before. Weed is even, it's been legal for like 100 years. They prescribe. Who cares? What does that have to do? When they sign up, I give money back guarantee. All they're paying for is picks. They're not paying me to babysit their kids or give moral lessons. I just give picks. And nobody can say I don't know fighting. I don't know nothing else but fighting. So what am I defrauding? I don't sell raffle tickets. Lowton is a guy who's obsessed with leaving fake dislikes. Like, if you look at my most recent videos, I even had one with 300 dislikes. Like, it's so and I had 2 picks and they both won. So like, what could you have even wanted? So, and he admits, like, he tries to troll me, sending me messages, fake. He's obsessed. You know why? For 10 years, he's been doing this job. On my first month, I made more than he earns in 13 months on my first month. On my 6th month, just like April alone, I made more than he did in his full career. His entire 7 years of doing this combined did not amount to what I made in 1 month. And I don't do when you subscribe to my Patreon, there's no contractual long-term obligations. You can quit the same day you sign up. There's nobody that forces you to stay. And I even do money back guarantees. And I did full card bet slips for free on Twitter. They're still there with timestamps, with 12-leg parlays that cashed in $3,100 to be exact. Left Bet Rivers Casino cashed out with $16,600. So total profit was $13,300. But I did that back to back just to show, like anybody else, now this is what I can do. And since then, I've gotten much better. I've evolved my system. I've perfected it. I use my system, even if 60% of my picks go wrong, as long as like my tier 1 picks are mostly right, we still double and triple our money. On our worst days, like in I've been doing this for almost a year, and I still have members that until today are current members, because every month I see how much Patreon charges me a platform fee, payment processing fee, taxes, and merchandise. Just recently, look at my Instagram. Somebody tagged me. Thank you for the 9-month. Every 3 months, I send them free gifts. Here's one. And they're not cheap. These are like good quality stuff. This is super, super comfortable. I have a t-shirt short sleeve t-shirt, and then I have a long sleeve black and gold t-shirt. I have a coffee mug, but the guy sent me he got a 3 month, 6 month, 9 month. I was just shocked because like more than 10 people have got their 9 month gifts, and I haven't even been doing it for a full year. So I mean, like, what do you think? People are dumb that they're gonna just automatically stay in, continuing to pay money. Last 2 weeks, I cashed a 9-leg parlay, and there was only like 10, 11 fights. The week before that, or the week after that, I cashed an 8-leg we. Timestamps, look at my social media. They don't lie. And the video that they make, like, they dedicate hours of bull. Like, they said that I seen a second. They said that I'm making fake accounts and leaving comments. That's the worst thing they're accusing me of, is leaving. There's 200 comments on some of my older videos, and if you click on them, some of them have been open for 15 years. But one of them that the guy said he's 100% sure was me has only like 3 comments in total and has been a patron for almost like 10 months. And so that would on my highest tier. So if I am that guy, that means I am paying my highest membership for 10 months in a row, allowing them to take platform fees, processing fees, and taxes so I'm paying membership and Google. Like, it makes no sense. My results speak for themselves. Like, when they say when you got haters, it's because you're doing something right. Show me another guy with my results. They try to do like some MMA betting tips thing. I'm not a computer guy. I tried it for like 2 events, and my first event, I made 177% ROI, return of investment. On my first time using it, I got perfect picks on parlays, but the thing is with why I stopped using it, not only because I messed up the second time, I ended up like duplicating the same thing. Like, I'm bad at computers, but also it contradicted with the paying. So it messes with the Patreon schedule. If I have to work with, it doubles my work, which I don't have the time to do. But also, it doesn't allow me to do my betting system, the bulletproof betting system. It won't allow me to make those plays. It'll say you use this guy too many times because they put like limits and stuff. So I only used it like 3 times, and I've been in business for a year. So they're trying to say because my record there is not doing well that I'm a fraud. Like, 2 events. Look at my last 12 events. Forget the last. Let's not go from the beginning, because then you guys are going to look. Don't count the Khabib card, the free card, where I made 13,600 in profit from 3,000. Don't count those. Just count the last 4 events. Nobody does those profits. Nobody does parlays like I do. Nobody has I spent years in either fighting or training, and also being a fan of the sport. I never missed an event from the first fights of like Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock days. I used to even go to Blockbuster and rent those cassette tapes and rewatch. Huge fan. Like, and all Patreon is not my company. Uncle Joey Diaz uses it. He's got like 300,000 Patreon members. He makes like $1 million a month. I don't own Patreon, so therefore I don't see your credit card numbers. I don't have anything in my background. So you can say I smoke weed, whatever. You won't find one thing on my background that has anything to do with violence, hurting people, or fraud. Never in my whole entire life of existence have I done any of those types of things. Nothing to do with a violent crime and nothing to do with fraud. So who cares? And that was literally almost a decade ago. I haven't even got a seatbelt ticket or spoken to a police officer in over like 7 years. And if that's what you got to focus on, because I sell picks, like what about the guys who are reinstated? I went to college. Do you mention things like that? Lakeview College. I have a degree. Like, I'm not a loser. I'm not I don't sell tickets for raffles like Lowton. Lowton, he only charges $5. That's why I said in 1 month I did more than he did in 4 years, because I charge decent. I charge way less than I should be charging. Like guys like Gianni the Greek charges $1,000 a month, and there's about 30 videos in interviews where he admits, I don't watch the sport. I don't know anything about these guys. I usually watch videos of people like me to help me make my picks, or he'll use the lines. So like that guy Rodolfo Vieira, undefeated, biggest favorite of the night, who I said was gonna lose, he would have picked him because he believes that the odd makers are gonna be honest. They're gonna give him the right odds that indicate it's a mismatch. That guy who doesn't know anything about those sports but gives picks charges $1,000 a month. That's 10 times more than what I charge. And there's other guys that charge $250 a week, and not even, they've never made a 3-leg parlay cash. Nonetheless, how many 13, 12, 11, 10, 9-leg parlays? Do you know how many of those I've cashed in? More 9-leg and 8-leg parlays than 2-leg parlays. So, and if you don't believe me, go to the beginning of my YouTube channel. I did full picks. Go tell me, have you ever seen a card where I got more than 2 wrong? And then remember, look up if that 1 or 2 wrong was a robbery or a controversial decision, or a fluke where the guy was winning, like Curtis Blades versus Lewis type of a thing. Where in my Patreon, I even give betting tips. I say, hey, look, this parlay, if you want to be super safe, take the heavyweight fight out or take the women's fight out, and you can be super safe. So I give tips. I tell them the risks, full disclosures. I answer always honestly and promptly. I do everything by the book, so I don't do anything but give picks. So if I get one wrong pick, like that guy in Jack Hermanson versus Vittori, I did a full card breakdown. I showed full bet slips. My last, again, I do it in order. My number 13th pick, my last pick, meaning my most dangerous pick, was the only one that lost. And that's not the first time that happened. That event with Rory McDonald in PFL where he lost to Ray Cooper, there was like 13 fights. All 12 cashed in. The one and only one that didn't was Rory, and he was my 13th pick. People are starting to even just, and he was one of the biggest favorites. So I'm not the only person I thought he would win. I gave him credit because this is a guy who's training with George St. Pierre, one of the greatest GOATs they talk about of all time. So I had reasons, but I wasn't sure. So I was honest, and I put it under as my last pick and tier 3. So everybody knows if you just do tier 1 and tier 2 parlays, and then if you leave women's MMA and heavyweight fights out, you don't need a job. Not only do you not need a job, you don't even need to save all your winnings. You can go vacation every month. I have places in Europe. You want to see how many different places how many homes at my place in Europe its value now is 698,000 euros. 700,000 euros in US dollars is near $1 million about. That's just in Europe. I live in the nicest, most beautiful place in America. Houses here are like $1 million and up. So I have always worked hard. I'm a hustler. I am a perfectionist. I get really disappointed when I see that I get one wrong. So that tells you that I'm hard on myself so that I can do better. And that's the fighter in me, because that's how fighters are. So, and that's why I block a lot of people. I don't do this for the money. I gamble and I show you my winning tickets. If I canceled Patreon, I still don't need to work. I make enough money on betting well, I can't bet myself anymore. I've been blocked by every casino in the world, but I have family members who I break a piece off to, and they bet for me. So, but I do this, it's a passion, and somebody, really encouraged me. And another thing is, I just noticed when I paid attention to all the other handicappers and channels like Logan last week, I get that he only charges $5, but he gave 4 picks, official bets for Dana, 0 cashed in. And the only other last time I remember checking what he did in stats, he gave 5 picks, 1 cashed in, and it was like a minus 600 favorite. So when you're doing, and I only do full cards, I'll never only give 3 or 4 picks. If you're paying for picks, you're going to get all the full entire card picks and predictions, breakdowns, everything that goes with it, and other sports I offer. He doesn't do that, but he at most will give 4 picks or 5 tops as official bets. And the last 2 times I checked, one of them was most recently. That was the last. You go look. Dana White 0 cashed in, and he picked all favorites. Like I got Michael Morales and the decision prop bet, or the last one, Carlos Hernandez plus 250. Just yesterday, plus 250 underdog. Not only I picked the underdog and he won, but the prop bet cashed in. He won by decision against the favorite. So like, call me what you want to call me, man, but anybody who's an actual wanting to be a potential customer or a current customer who needs to check my accolades, my credentials, if you don't already know by now. We'll talk, a little bit more about the fight. Sorry, I got onto the rant. Just her last finish, like what I'll give you my second pick, okay? So Mackenzie Dern is my first pick. I think she should be a much bigger favorite. But my second pick is a girl who, if you look back at the Chiesa Magni breakdown, where I think that was another full card breakdown. We got like 3 underdogs, right? Chiesa Magni. I did Chiesa to win by decision. That cashed in. But that was, I think, the same card that Manon Fier made her debut. She was an underdog. This girl finished her fight with a 9-punch combination. She used such beautiful work when she kicked with the left, and noticed that she started, her opponent Victoria Leonardo blocked from the left immediately, automatically, without even looking. Switched stance foot and kicked with the right and hit her with the right. She's so smart. When she deflects when her opponents try to strike, she always deflects. She only goes into the pocket when she's trying to be offensive, and as soon as she's done with her combinations, and they're usually not just the 1-2s, they're like 3-4s, and she never looks, so you don't see it coming, and she'll multi. So while she's punching you, she's kicking you at the same time and not looking, so you'll never predict it, and you have to focus on blocking low and high at the same time. And her takedown defense, beautiful. Always quick to use the underhooks. Her head positioning when she's got her opponent against the cage, and she's usually the stronger of her opponents. Even when she's gone up against strong women fighters, she was the stronger of the two. So to beat a girl, she's only got 1 loss, and that's against a girl we just saw win recently who looked real good, Leah McCourt. That was her first fight of her career. Go look at the comments. Everybody said, bull crap, Manon won. And I agree. Manon won that fight. Today, Manon should still be undefeated, but she has 1 loss, and it's against a girl who is a very good fighter. And that was her first fight. People get jitters and stuff like that. So, but she did win that fight. She should be undefeated. And she's got so many beautiful things to her game. the way she strikes, again, it's not small combinations. She mixes it up with kicks. Her body kicks are like what we've seen the current champion Blachowicz do to Dominic Reyes. Like, she can finish people off of her body kicks are vicious. And like, you can just tell she's in years of practice. Like, the way she fights, she doesn't have to listen to her coaches. She doesn't have to consider what to do. It's on automatic pilot mode. And like I said, she doesn't look. She's very sneaky, unpredictable. But that comes from years and years of experience in training, doing things repetitively. And I've said this in my videos hundreds of times. And today I saw Mike Tyson in a video say the key to success is just to keep repeating the same thing. You got to train. And they were showing Tyson Fury, Mike Tyson spending like 3-4 hours a day just doing the same thing over and over and over, repetitive. You could tell because speaking of French people, she does like the same thing, the same way. She's like a female version of Cyril Gain, undefeated from France. She does those like little teep kicks. Anytime her opponent wants to try to close the distance, she gives them a kick to keep them at bay and land points. Her fights are usually never close. She's never really been in any close fights, and she's got 6 out of like her 7 wins were finishes. And remember that one was a robbery. So she's still progressing. She's still in her prime. She's got good movement, angles, footwork. She's always out of range. After she's finished touching you up and she's forcing you to block, so you can't be counter striking at the same time, or you're going to be eating flush. You have to block. Or with a girl who's that powerful, if you choose to try to strike back instead of block, you're going to get damaged, like doctor stoppage, or you're going to get knocked out. Look at her debut fight. After the first round was over, when Victoria was on the stool, they were already fixing the bumps on her face and her eyes. They were icing it. She looked like she was in a 5-round fight, and it was Manon's debut, short notice, first UFC fight. And Leonardo's she fought against girls like Miranda Maverick. So speaking of, she's got the patience of like Adrienne Yanez. She's got the movement and the skills of like a Gain. The fight IQ is good. She passed all the. I do a heavy screening for tier 1. That's why we picked her even as an underdog, short notice against a veteran in the game. We made her like in 70% of our parlays because the value. That's another part of what makes my system beautiful. I don't listen to many times you've seen Chandler versus Hooker, Chiesa versus Magny, Joseph Manez plus 275 was in 80% of my parlays, and I make 20-30 parlays. So that means he was in like 15 parlays, and he was paying plus 300, and their parlays were 4 5-leggers and higher. So every time when we win on events, we win between, I'm being humble and modest, 5 to 10 times our money. I have parlay tickets, $3 that cashed in for $400. That's 90 to 1 odds. I mean, I wouldn't put $100 on it, but I've had those cash in. They're posted on Patreon and my social media. So check it out. I have no reason to lie about. You need more proof, direct message me. I'll give you names like an application, like a resume. This is the gym I worked out of, people who I worked for. Like, this is not a fly-by-night shop, this is the biggest organization it's called Wendy's. Anybody who's ever came to Chicago or wanted to consider going to Chicago and be a boxer or a fighter, heard of that gym. That's the biggest known gym of the entire state of Illinois. So I'm not giving you a name to a place that you can call that's going to be like a friend of mine works there. Ask for the owners. Or my trainer, his name is, nickname, they call him NBC, like the news channel. Ask for NBC if he's still there. I don't know. Anyways, guys, so you got 2 picks. They add up together to become pretty good money for a free video. If you can show your token of appreciation, I'll even leave, if I get enough likes, especially with that one weirdo who's obsessed with me, giving me fake dislikes, and he's helping me with views, so I should actually thank him for it. But anyways, but that's probably why he's even doing worse. He was never good at what he does. That's why he hates, but now he's even worse because he dedicates so much time focusing on being a hater. And haters are born that way. They can't change what they are. A zebra can't change their stripes. We're not like, if I ever see anybody do good, like if I get a wrong pick, you get a right pick, I say awesome, congratulations. I hope you do just as good again next time. You know, we don't feel bitter because I feel like a winner already. I've won way too many times in my days in my life to ever be jealous of somebody else winning too. Where haters are, you can see them and smell them from a mile away. I'm that one. Liars, you can see them. Things that if I wanted to talk more in depth about fighting, you would say there's nobody in the world that knows more about fighting than I do. But I try to make these videos short and sweet, and they're free. So you want more information, more picks, more knowledge, prop bets. I got a folder perfect card. I even pinned the Brunson card or Holland card. I gave 12 prop bets, and these are not like over 2.5. Every prop bet was showing winner and by method. One of them was plus 700. Another was Max Griffin by TKO. Another one I gave Andre Munoz by submission plus 695. Jacare Souza had never been submitted in his career, and he's at the end of it, and he had a long career. And I said the most likely outcome of this would be submission for Andre Munoz, plus 700. Cochiera against Gina Mazzani. Cochiera was an underdog. I put most likely outcome, Cochiera by TKO, plus 695. I went 12-0 on props. Most people wouldn't even be able to go 2 out of 12. It's because I don't miss a thing. I do my due diligence. This is my only job. I'm dedicated to it. And I care when there's people who I'm responsible for. I know that they have kids. Some of my members are relatives, are friends. I have relatives in my Patreon. So if I was scamming, how dare I see that, like their kids, their wife, their mother, my mother. It's ridiculous to even accuse me of something so stupid. But hopefully that, this nips all that in the butt. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification, because lines move. Sometimes you'll notice if I gave you a pick, it was minus 400, but the next day it became minus 800. So instead of profiting 1,000, you're going to profit only 500. So always use the bell notification. And if you can leave a comment, that's, I spent over an hour for free of my time, gave you 2 free solid picks, gave you reasons to have the peace of mind of knowing why one person is better than the other. Hold on. All I ask for is a like, subscribe, and most important, leave a comment or a question, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. It helps the algorithm of my channel, and that's how I grow, and it helps the business. The more sharp minds we have a lot of members still on my team, so the more we grow, the more, like, for example, when I post a 9-leg parlay, I'll get a message, hey, don't you think this one is risky because of this, and that? So I have 200 sharp, like-minded people in my team that are always making sure if I ever make a mistake, they help me catch it. Most of the time, it's just, I have to explain to them, yeah, I see where you're coming from, but because I'm, again, a perfectionist. I don't usually get that. I don't make mistakes. It's very rare. But it's good. The bigger we are, the more of us, the better we do. and everybody wins. I guarantee you. I like that guy. If you look 2-3 weeks ago, Isaac, he's been a member for only 2 months. Smart guy. His first month, he was betting small, but when he started to notice, like, every week, we're not just winning, but we're winning by ridiculous amounts, so that there's no way you can ever consider that we would lose our money. Like, the idea of even just breaking even would sound like impossible. So it's just a matter of how much are we going to win this time, depending on if the judges screwed us or we got unlucky. So after his first month, go look at my Instagram post or my Twitter. He said, "Thank you so much. I won $73,000 today." I think it was on the SMITHVSSPANN card. He won $73,000, and it wasn't even close to being like my top 50 best events. I just always have a good results. So he realized I can trust this guy. It took him 2 months before he started to bet big, but now I got customers who win $200,000 per event, $80,000, $40,000. So I've gotten people that they don't need to do nothing but, like, his comment. If you read the name, look at, he's a real person. You can see his social media has been open longer than I've even known about YouTube. He's an older man with family and everything. He said more than a full year's worth of bills paid. Thank you. $73,000. So that means everything, his mortgages, his car payments, insurance, his full year of bills, and some was paid because of one event. And I haven't increased my plan when I started Patreon was to show you guys how good I am, then increase it because I got to pay taxes, platform fees, so many things that. And until today, because we do so well, I do so, I've never once increased any of my packages. And even better yet, I give money back guarantees. I give credit back. Like today, I made an offer and a special for anybody who's in the Patreon. If you're in the lower tier, you can go to if you want to upgrade to the higher tier, I'll refund your money for the difference. So like if you went from the $10 tier to the $50 tier, same day, right away, I'll send you $40 back through PayPal or whatever method you chose to pay. $40 will go back to you. So you get 1 month risk-free to try that tier. And so far, I've never had anybody go down. So that's why I do things like that. It's from the confidence. That's why I make merchandise. If I was a scammer or not, if I wasn't good at what I do, would I waste? You want to see how much money I've wasted on sending merchandise alone, or platform fees, or taxes? My platform fees alone, each month was over $2,000. That guy Lowton doesn't make anywhere near that. So I pay more in fees, and their fees are not that big. It's a very small percentage. That's why he's overly obsessed that he's been doing it for 10 years, and I came within my first month and exceeded him. And it's okay. Like, I understand his frustration. I would suggest to focus his time on trying to do better than to make, because even if he found a way to make me look bad, his picks are not going to get any better. He's got to do something different. Anyways, guys, not to include all the bad things that people, ever since, because I help so many people make money that when people see other people attacking me, they feel offended. I've had a lot of people say, I can't believe they get so mad. They send me screenshots. Like this most recent video, a guy said, I put like 10 messages. He keeps deleting them. I keep saying that you're not a scam or you made me money. And every time I check, my comment's gone. So he's only keeping bad messages. And I'm the scammer. So it's like a kettle calling, even if I was, it would be like the kettle calling the teapot black. So whatever. If you guys see and hear anything about that, and you really believed it. It's so foolish that you wouldn't even believe it, because 90% of the time it's focused on the most silliest things, like my grammar, or stupid, like I smoked weed. He never says anything about like the pics and stuff, but. And even the most worst thing he accused me of was leaving fake messages. He said, but I can't say for sure it's him. So why are you making a 3-hour video? You can't say for sure. But even if that was like what I was guilty of, that's called, actually, I think that would even be called advertising. People, that would be good. I don't have time to do that, but I assure you I've never needed to. I have, if you look at my old videos, again, just go back. I have like 200 comments on my videos, and 98% of them are like 10-year-old accounts, 8-year-old accounts, 7-year. So are you telling me I created those accounts, put pictures up, subscribed to 10,000 channels because I was expecting 8 years from today I'm gonna do a, like, come on, dude, get serious. You guys got my pics. And yeah, be careful of the scammers. Those $5 guys, those DFS guys, those guys, you know, I'll give you the full card, 20 picks just for $5. You get what you pay for. 0 out of 5, like loan. And not the worst thing. Go look at on Twitter, MMA Twitter, or something like that. It's all over Twitter. This guy's on his channel when he had like Gianni the Greek and other people that were trying to, when he was co-hosting with them, or they were trying to help him, he made a comment about getting a hard-on at the weigh-ins when Diego Fiera went on the scales. His abs were so something that I couldn't help it. Come on. He said something about getting a hard-on, and I usually don't get hard-ons, but ooh-wee, did you see his abs? Like, what kind of a person, like, how do you expect people to respect you or believe you? And that's the kind of person who leaves 300 fake dislikes that I'm dealing with. So I apologize if you see that in the comments. Every now and then you're gonna see a fake comment accusing me of something weird or whatever. You can verify it for yourself. Ask me anything you need to know about me directly if I see you're a real person, because this guy's such a sicko. He's got nothing to do with this life. I see numerous accounts made from the same day. Like, it'll say a message from an account that was made that day, or a YouTube account making a message on my video, but it was just created 1 hour ago. And they all, one time the guy even spoke in first person. Like, he was saying something about himself, like, yo, MMA only charges $5 and I'll do way better than that, and then he will. Like, in the middle of the sentence, he went from third to first person. It's just that when you're mentally checked out, when you spend 9 hours a day doing something so useless, it actually even helps the person that you're trying to hurt. That's the type of mistakes you make, and that's why even $5 you should be careful spending. That would be a waste. All right, guys, thank you. If you sign up, there's a money back guarantee for your first month. If you're upgrading, there's risk-free. You get the refund for the difference of the amount. And so you get to try the package that you're upgrading to for free. And today you got 2 free picks. The girl, man, there's so many things I took. It's such a shame about her style, her Muay Thai clinch work, like how she's every time she separates from when they're against the cage or in the clinch, she throws great elbows, knees, her clinch, like she's got, like, I can say so many good things about the things that she does. And the other person, I can say, next time we'll focus more on that kind of stuff, because I enjoy speaking about that more. But I do this so you can have a peace of mind. These are safe picks. So you got a free hidden parlay in this video, and you got 2 safe picks. One of them is paying way better than it should be. Mackenzie Dern is nearly undefeated, and her only loss is against the girl who's nowhere near the same type of a fighter. Complete opposite. And if you look at Marina Rodriguez, She got 2 draws and 1 loss. All 3 of those, and that 1 round that she lost against Watterson in her last fight. So 2 draws of 1 loss and the 4th round of her last fight. All those times that she either lost or got a draw or lost the round were because she got out grappled and couldn't get back up from somebody either keeping her on the ground or wrestling or grappling or using good submissions and transitions and stuff like that. So this is Marina's worst style nightmare matchup, her kryptonite, and quite the opposite for her opponent. So win, lose, or draw, especially the value in a parlay. Her and Manon together, call it a woman's MMA parlay. It's good odds. You get plus money. So if you bet 100, you get your 100 back and an extra like 200 on top of it. So they're safe, free picks. You didn't pay for them. And if you win money, maybe you can join so you can get the rest of the picks. I get full picks, prop bets. I do NFL, NBA, and everything. So you get a lot of money, a lot of opportunities. I hope you join. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, bell notification, and leave a comment, please. Thank you guys for your time. Blessings to you all. Have a good day. Win some money. Do well. And F the haters.